In this lesson, we're going to have a look at designing in Raydian. This can be done in a myriad of different ways with AI and also even manually. Let's take a look. So if we just scroll down our landing page and have a look at some of the sections, start your journey, frequently asked questions. Great. So the way I approach design in Raydian is I will first ask Raydian agent to design me a section. Let's create a testimonial section and then actually get intentional with how we want the end result. So let's say, so for this, we don't actually need the planning agent. It's just a section. I'm going to say, add a new testimonial section. So we want a masonry grid, generate avatars in different styles. And we actually use Google's Nano Banana generative model to generate images. So the main image in the hero image, well, that was generated. It's not a stock image. Okay, where should we place this? Yeah, let's place below why choose compass. And if you wanted to, you can switch across to the editor mode to actually see the layers. Okay, so if I expand, first of all, I can select this layer. And by default, we call basically divs, or you might call them layers. We call them containers. Okay, containers are like sections that contain other sections. And what we've done is AI writes the code, and then we map visual tools on top of that code. Okay, so containers are obviously less descriptive because that's how we've architected it. We don't actually know what AI is going to generate, but we want to generate tools, map tools to the code that you can actually use. So what you could do here is I can see that my container is actually selected here. I could double click on this to rename it, and I could choose, and I could say, why choose compass. Okay, so if I had to go back to chats, I can actually add this as context, why choose compass. Now, I don't want this context at this stage, so I'm going to remove it. And we have mentioned it down here. Okay, so add a new testimonial section, add 8 cards with varying testimonial lengths in a masonry grid, generate avatars. That's the content I want. Okay, let's try it. So I've started a new chat for this, of course, because the previous context is not relevant and I want a nice clean context, which also means better token efficiency. While this is working, at any time you can switch across to our code view, and this is actually a full code editor. So if you know how to code, if you understand a bit of Tailwind, CSS, you can actually go ahead and make direct edits here. Shortly, we'll be switching across to the styles and properties section, so I can show you how, again, we've mapped these tools on top of existing code. Okay, so I'm scrolling down and I can already see that this has been created, even though it's still, okay, it's just finishing up. Great, this looks really good. All of these images are AI generated, obviously placeholders for now. But can you see this beautiful masonry grid? Okay, what about responsive? So if I try 400, this looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to just backspace. And what about if we view it in a preview? Now, when I click this button, I can just view it on a full site outside of the editor. Got the max width. Everything looks like it's ready to go. You can see the varying lengths here. So we've got a masonry grid. Really happy with this. Now, there are many different ways to design. We could use a Raydian agent. We can use our contextual AI. Let's have a look at the manual tools first. So if I wanted to make the background of these cards gray, because we're on a white background right now, I could use the select tool and I could say make BG gray. Now this is a very, very fast and almost, I'm not going to say free model, but it is targeted, uses clever context, and I would use this tool over anything else in Raydian for design work. Great, so we've made the first card gray. There it is there. So if I select it again, and I go across to the editor, here's the card that's selected on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, this is the background that was applied, okay? So I can apply any background I like. Here's a more of a dark gray background. Anything I like here. Could do light blue, light red. Light blue is kind of nice. Okay. So how's this actually being applied? So obviously I talked about in the past that AI generates the code. We know that. But then how do these visual design tools actually function? Well, what we've done is we've mapped these design tools on top of the code. So if you have designed in tools like Webflow or Frame or Bubble or other tools in the past, by dragging elements onto the canvas, you create the code. It's deterministic, you know exactly what it is, therefore the tools map really nicely. With Raydian, this is the new age. You're not creating the code by dragging things onto the canvas. The code is created, and then we have to cleverly map the tools to the code. So this does create a challenge, and this is something we're really working on. But let me just show you behind the scenes so you get a better understanding of how it works. So with this particular blue card, with the card highlighted, we can see that we have a background of blue down here. We have shadow small, radius XL. This is the corner radius. And we have a border, but I don't see much of a color on that border. Anyhow, that's the main thing to understand about this particular card. It's the styling of the card here. And this is basically using Tailwind. So if I toggle to code view, we've highlighted the card code here on the left-hand side. This is all of the card code. And if I look at the class name, I can see rounded XL. Okay, rounded XLs here. Shadow SM, these are Tailwind classes, Shadow XM. So if I had to change this to Shadow Medium, that would actually change the code. And then we would represent that changed code on the card. So we scroll down, you can see that the borders are now XL. Okay, and let me just get back to the selection. And if I toggle back to the code, we can see now it says rounded XL. I can manually actually change this to SM. So you can see we have radius XL. If I change this to SM, we can also see the blue background here and the shadow medium. But rounded SM, I've just changed the SM myself. So I'm going to save that. And you can see now the radius says SM. If I go down to advanced, let me just show you this. These are basically just Tailwind classes. So whenever you have an element with Tailwind classes, you will see the Tailwind classes here. And looky here, rounded SM. So I can change that to XL or MD or whatever else I like. Okay. I'm going to keep that as SM. So this is just an extra place. If you don't want to use these tools over here, you understand Tailwind classes, you can just add them down here. Now, obviously, there's more to this than meets the eye because we've also got breakpoints. And this is why I actually prefer just to use AI, because AI takes care of breakpoints for us. So if we go down to mobile sizes, well, we want less rounded border. We want smaller text. We want slightly different spacing. We might have different layout. We might go from a row layout to a column layout for mobile. And if you're using AI for design, AI will do this for you. If you're using these visual tools, you need to take care of that yourself. So in terms of the visual tools, I tend to use it for tinkering. It's free, doesn't cost anything, but our contextual AI is probably the best way to go because it balances functionality and cost, and it's very, very cheap, as I said. So by using this guy down here, you're going to be getting the maximum benefit of all the breakpoints already baked into the code, and you don't have to use the visual tools. You can just type what you need, and in most instances, it'll do what you need. Now, there are some visual tools that are missing. This is intentional just because it's very hard to map tools on top of generated code by AI. And that's what we're doing. Now, we're trying our best with this. But for instance, we've left out color gradients. So if you wanted a color gradient, you could just ask the contextual AI to do it for you because it's missing from the tool set. Okay? I hope that was useful for you to understand. So I'm going to deselect that again. And actually, I'm going to change this to maybe a slightly lighter color. Let's just try and get back our, yeah, here it is here. I'm going to say make card gray. All right. Other things I could say here is maybe clamp the text. So it just shows 3 lines of text. So all the cards are equal height. And then we can click the text to see more. We could say reduce the padding, the spacing, the margin, the border color, add more shadow, add less shadow, make the card take up 2 columns instead of 1 column, just the top row. All sorts of different things that you can imagine here. You just need to ask the contextual AI again. It's so cheap, you won't notice the expenditure on this. Okay, I'm going to deselect that. Now, if you'd like to have a look, what you can do is we have all of these available blocks, and these are components that the AI has generated for us. But these particular blocks, you can do things like, add in buttons, accordions, calendar elements, avatars, and these are from the same library called ShadCN that we already use, that our AI uses to build. So if you wanted to manually be more intentional about your design, we can simply drag and drop content in here, okay? So you don't pick it up and drag it onto the editor, you actually add it inside cards. And here you can see it's down here. I'm going to move this up. And from here, you can then, got the icon highlighted. I can come across to the right-hand side and I can change the icon to anything I like. I can change it to that icon if I like. But now this icon has no Tailwind classes associated, so this is something I would need to go ahead and do over here, okay? So I could add a margin of maybe 4, and you can see it's been brought across a bit. Now currently it's towards the end of December. We're using Tailwind sizing here. It's like Tailwind sizing is on a 4-point system. So if I wanted 16, I would type in 4. 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay, so 1 pixel or 1 unit equals 4 pixels. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this icon. I'm going to change this to a slightly different gray and change the shadow. Maybe I'll change the shadow to none for this. Okay, so let's recap. So I wanted a session created. I use Raydian agent for that. If I am confident with no-code tools, I can drag in containers, or I can drag in. We've got some completed blocks as well, and I think we're going to be adding to this. So that's for like the big generation work. For the smaller design updates, like changing backgrounds, border color, that kind of thing, use the contextual AI designer in the editor. Select tool, and then you type. For even smaller design changes, you can also use the visual tools. So with the card selected like I showed you. You scroll to the bottom, you see the highlighted Tailwind classes. Let me just show you one more time. Because we have a border class, a radius class, a background class, and a shadow class, these are changed to blue, okay? We don't have any of these set, so they're not changed to blue. Here's padding, though. We do have padding, so that is changed to 6. And we can also see these classes down here, and if we toggle to code view, we can change the classes directly if we're confident with Tailwind CSS. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next one.